What's going on, y'all? Happy Friday. This is the Daily AI Show live coming at you every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Appreciate y'all being here. Thanks, everybody that's jumping into the chat already. We appreciate y'all. As always, we are going to do a little bit of news as we start the show. And then we have a kind of a really interesting topic, a blog that came out from Anthropic called Interviewer, and talk about what that means, what they did, what they found after doing some research with about 1,200 people and why that's significant. So that's kind of what we have going on today. Before we jump into any of the news, first and foremost, I'm here with Beth and Andy and Brian, and we'll see if anybody else pops in the door here as we get the day rolling. But also don't forget about some of the other things we have going on with the show. So we have this daily show that happens Monday through Friday at 10 a.m., like I said. But we also have what we call the Conundrum episode that comes out on Saturday mornings. That one is a quick intro, like live, meaning it's me, intro at the beginning. And then our two AI co-hosts sort of take over for that. And they discuss a conundrum, something that doesn't have an easy answer or an easy yes to either side. It's kind of a debate. And I will tell you, this week's is a really good one. It's a really good one. It's also the longest one that's produced. It's like 24 minutes long before my intro, which is actually by far the longest that's been produced. So I highly recommend going to check that out. That will go out on our Spotify and like our podcast platforms. It doesn't go out on Apple. It doesn't go out on YouTube because it's not video. It's just audio. But that will go out tomorrow morning. It goes live at 10 a.m. Eastern. Then on Sunday, we have our newsletter that goes out at 8 a.m. Eastern. And you can sign up for the newsletter by simply going to our website, which is thedailyAIshow.com. And last but not least, tons of stuff always going on with us. You can always continue and join the conversation beyond this live show and folks that are able to join the chat by being in our community. And that's going to the Daily AI Show community.com. Slack community, it's free, doesn't cost you anything. But if you like AI and you like talking about it, you like to share your ideas, well, then we would love to have you in there. Okay, that's a lot of intro there, but I just want to make sure we have the opportunity to talk about all the different things we have going on with the show, because there is always a lot. And, you know, we have different things going on the weekends that aren't like our weekdays. With that said, that's a lot. Fast. Let me send that over to I don't know, Andy or Beth, with whatever you guys feel like is like you've both been talking a little bit about different news topics, and Beth, you were talking about a leak that maybe came out. So maybe start with that one. You said something about Soul, and I didn't know what you were referring to.
So the stories from Jared Kaplan's interview that you all talked about yesterday seem to people seem to also be talking about a leak of something called a Soul doc, SOUL. And it looks to be not the official name of the document. It's not available to the public, but it addresses sort of the values that Anthropic wants the models to have while they're training them. So it's used in training. It's not injected at the time of inference or any of those sorts of things. But they sort of look at it in that saving grace kind of thing. And part of what Jared was talking about was by 2030, it's not going to be effective anymore, because right now we're at a place, or what the general gist that I get is right now we're at a place where AI is kind of at a human level of intelligence.
Right.
We could debate whether it's slightly above or slightly below or whatever that is, but it's in that realm. When it's super, when it has its own frameworks, this Soul doc or what they're doing may not work in the same kind of way. And so part of the conversation is, how do you do that? If AI is training AI, does the AI that was trained with the Soul doc part of it impart that? Is that enough? So I think that's where that is coming in that conversation.
Okay. Yeah, those Andy and I, we talked a bit about that, not the Soul part of it, because I don't think that was something either we knew or just didn't come up in our conversation yesterday. So that adds a little extra flavor to it.
Yeah, the Soul thing was leaked, I believe.
Oh, it was leaked. Yeah. Well, I have a quick swerve off of that, but it's a quick one. Jeffrey Hinton, who's often called the godfather of AI, says Google is beginning to overtake OpenAI. My guess is Google will win. That's a quote from him. This is from the Business Insider. Here's really why I do it. Now, listen, we've talked plenty on this show about the big gains Google has had, and we were just talking the other day about, I think Andy and I were talking maybe yesterday, talking about how they have that ecosystem and all that stuff. But this is more about just making sure you read full articles, because nothing against Jeffrey Hinton, but you should know, number one, he did previously work for Google for quite some time at Google Brain, not DeepMind, but Google Brain, which is not a name of all the different departments and areas of Google. That one I don't know as well. But regardless, he's a prominent figure. He often talks about Google and what they can do. But so he's very complimentary of Google. And if nothing else, he says in the article, I'm surprised it took him this long. But I believe Google's going to win, right? They've been doing this longer. It was interesting that they pointed out how Google was cautious in the wake of the disastrous Microsoft 2016 launch of the short-lived Tay, Tay, AI chatbot. So Tay AI chatbot, which was taken offline after it posted incredibly racist tweets. I actually remember that from 2016. It was a flash in the pan. It was a super bad look for Microsoft. And what they were sort of talking about is Google's like, and we know this, right? They're part of the Transformers, and they have been part of AI and what they've been doing for years. But that experience of what happened with Microsoft probably did slow down Google back in the day with how they were pushing on AI, because they couldn't really take that kind of public hit of something that was doing racist tweets. Now, Google has certainly had their misses as far as like creating images with incorrect representations of what it was Native Americans and all sorts of things like that. And the pizza thing that they had, and okay, fine, that was like 2-3 years ago. But it's interesting to like watch how maybe Google pulled back a little bit, and maybe that cautiousness hurt them in this 2017 or even 2022 explosion of what we know as ChatGPT era. And then the last thing I just want to say, and probably the most important thing on this really quick, is yes, it's great that Jeffrey Hinton is saying this. And yes, we could already say he worked at Google, so he might be more biased towards Google winning. But the very bottom of the article says, Google just made a big university donation in Hinton's honor. Hinton spoke to Business Insider ahead of the announcement that Google was donating 10 million Canadian dollars, I guess, at the CAD to help establish the Hinton Chair in Artificial Intelligence at the University of Toronto. The university where Hinton split his time while at Google said it would match Google's gift. So look, I'm not saying he's swayed. He's the godfather of AI. He can speak for himself, but it's always important to sort of follow some of these comments and stuff. I'm not necessarily he's wrong either. I think it's an interesting article, but also important to know that they're donating $10 million in his honor. So
well, but
the news on that one.
Like, he left Google so that he could that was a story like a couple of years ago. Whenever he left Google so that he could talk about the risks that he saw,
right,
without it impacting his relationship with Google. I sort of feel that way about the money as well, right? Like, he's sort of he's been singing the same song for a while.
Yeah.
But
it's interesting, I mean, he's an interesting guy to listen to, just like Jan LeCun. He was in the news too, by the way, with Meta and different things like that. And so it's interesting to watch some of these, early voices and how they're seeing things play out. It's to me, it's akin of listening to what's the I can picture his face, the co-founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak. It's sort of like, he's done things clearly, and he's had an opinion all the way through the years. You'll always with Steve Wozniak, quotes will just pop up. It'll be like, well, I think this or that or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, he's a prominent voice in this area. I don't know how much he's like been in the trenches per se, but still an interesting voice along the way. So anyway, just wanted to bring that one up. Anyway, off to you, Andy. What do you got for news today?
Oh, I want to just talk about it being December, and we're going to start thinking retrospectively about what happened in 2025 and what's going to be happening in 2026. But I just wanted to say what a difference a year makes. Like, I'm going to talk about this very large state of the AI space that was just published by Open Router. And they're in a unique position because Open Router, of course, sees all the traffic to all the different models that are, by the users of Open Router. But anyway, they just published this very long, I think it's 70 plus pages, document that I'm going to feed to Notebook LM shortly. But I only saw it for the first time this morning. It came across the news wires, and it's primarily about 2025 being not necessarily the year of agents, although agents are important that way, but it is the seminal year during which reasoning models came to the fore. And the field of AI shifted inference from a single pass sort of prediction response, right? So the dense model spits out the response to whatever your prompt was, to multi-step deliberation inference. So if you rewind the clock, a little over a year ago, we started to hear from OpenAI about some model they had called Strawberry. And Strawberry was inside, and it was doing something peculiar that the other models hadn't been doing before. Not peculiar. It was doing everything that they wanted it to. And so they were teasing us with what Strawberry was. And it was then released December 5th of 2024. So 1 year ago.
Yeah, literally
1 year ago. Okay. And that was the first major model release that expanded inference time computation in a process that was focused on not just doing one pass through the model, but an internal multi-step deliberative process with planning and refinement before actually generating the final output. And that's the way that models work today that are approximating, as Beth just said, they're at the level of human intelligence in many ways now in respect of reasoning, and they make mistakes just like humans do. So anyway, that's the leader of the news. And I want to just tell you that you can see this report and do your own digest of it. It's at openrouter.ai/state-of-AI. So check that out. I can paste that in the private, and you guys can put that up on the chat too.
Yeah, for sure. Beth, what else you got for news stories?
Oh, well, I'm actually going to pull direct from chat. Jennifer saying, here we go, Freaky Friday. ChatGPT was going crazy last night and still this morning. Something big, I bet, is coming. It's mixing conversation threads and can't silo chats. So thinking mode seems to help. So if you're having that experience, try thinking mode because we have our very brilliant chat participants sharing stuff, but also highlighting. Sam did say that there was going to be a new reasoning model coming
this week, right, or something like that.
Yeah, and we know the pattern is when ChatGPT seems to not function well anymore, they generally have something coming out. So
yeah, I think I'm right on this, that Jennifer also was in our community sharing that she was having issues maybe yesterday with tasks running in the business accounts.
Right.
And I hadn't had a chance to go validate that for myself and see, because I'm in many business accounts, but I was like, I do have some tasks running, but I hadn't had a chance to go look at that. But thank you, Jennifer, for providing, and doing that, because I think that stuff's so helpful when people are able to, hear that going on. And I think you're probably right. There probably is something going on. Now, my Wi-Fi went nuts yesterday, but had nothing to do with it. So I can't really say what was working or what wasn't, because as I told Beth right before we went live, I said I had to reboot everything yesterday. Not only did my Wi-Fi in my house kind of like take a vacation for whatever reason, but then my computer was just like, let's have a talk. Let's have a talk. This is an intervention, Brian. And I think I think of these things as AI sometimes. I don't know if you guys do this, but you imagine a future AI where your computer literally, instead of it just quietly breaking because of too many tabs and too much shit, open and stuff, but it actually talks to you, and it's like, hey, can we have a chat? It's like, sure, what's going on, computer? It's like, listen, you got 47 tabs open. You were straining every part of my RAM. Like let's. Here's 7 tabs you haven't looked at in 4 days. Can we close
Hey,
those?
bud, take a seat. We need to talk.
How about
Okay.
we get something to drink? Have a coffee. I'll take care of this.
More from Jennifer. The tasks thing. She had good luck recreating the tasks, and they worked. And also because we know all of the people at OpenAI listen to the show. Jennifer has a workshop, so if you could just get it fixed within the next hour, that would be like really good.
I feel that.
We do what we can.
Yeah, I do feel that. I get a lot of the, hey, Brian, inside my scaled and stuff like that. Hey, Brian, I'm talking to one of our clients. This will be one of my coworkers or other consultants. I'm talking to a client, and this is could you go ahead and if you could just create that real quick. No, that's not how this works. And even if I could create it with AI, which I mean, listen. I could probably create it, but like, let's not show it to the client that fast. It's like, that's a little quick for, we're going to get graded on the quality of the results and stuff, Okay. Well, thank you, Jennifer, for all that awesome information. And I hope you're right. Although kind of, I don't know. So they have to do something to respond to Gemini, I suppose, but unless it has a different feel to it, like Gemini, I don't know. I feel like we talked about this with Shipmas, whether it's yay or nay. And I would say, unless this is distinctly different, if it just feels like a 5.2, I would hold if I was OpenAI, but maybe they believe they're sitting on whatever this garlic is. Strawberry, garlic, Q Spark. How many other names have we had?
I have a couple of tidbits about, internal leaking, or I think probably the source about what garlic is. And early internal runs show it outperforming both Gemini 3 and Anthropic's Opus 4.5, so the state-of-the-art leading frontier models, on coding and logic, while staying small enough to deploy cheaply. So that's the interesting part of this, is that they're going to put something out that's at the lead position and also less expensive, which implicates the entire house of cards that's being built here, where it costs so much to put together the inference machines to support these models. And yet the per token costs are being driven down by competition. Why would OpenAI put out a cheaper model, like a less expensive model that is, at the state of the art? It's just they're trying to get the momentum back from Gemini. And that's one of the things that's going to happen here is probably going to be less expensive, and it's probably more efficient, and it makes it possible for them not to really dig their hole deeper or a lot deeper. But still, nonetheless, we really should be seeing inference costs rising in alignment with the useful exploitation of that inference.
I'm
not saying we want that. I'm not saying
Brian
we want that.
Brian
but that's what we should be seeing.
Speechless, Andy.
Speechless on a Friday.
What happened?
Andy broke me. By the way, this is neither here nor there, but Jennifer said, Brian, it was the last supermoon, full moon of the year yesterday. That's why, referring back to what I was saying about my computer and everything in my head, my Wi-Fi going fine. I will say this, Jennifer, just since you brought that up. Number one, I'm not a huge astrology person or whatever, but I believe this, and here's the reason why. When I was an EMT firefighter, and they talk about like ERs and all that kind of being nuts on full moons, that at least in my experience, I had some of the craziest nights on full moon nights. Now, there's things that say it's because it's brighter out and more people are out or whatever. I don't know. I think there's something weird about that. So Jennifer, when you said that, I was like, all I could think back to was my nights of full moons working as a firefighter EMT, because they were always like different. People were weirder, people were crazier at 3 a.m. It was a whole thing. So I don't know on that, but I just wanted you brought up a good memory of running those late night calls when I used to be a firefighter and EMT or whatever. I did want to, like, it's kind of like my own news or whatever, but you guys know I've been like sort of deep in the hole with Suno, and I don't want to continue to make this show about like, listen to what I did, listen to what I did. I need to find a better outlet for that in like the community and stuff. So I'm not playing anything, whatever. But I will tell you that again, Gemini, if anybody wants to play with Suno, I highly recommend using the combo of Gemini 3 Pro with Suno. Suno can't write lyrics for you know what, but Gemini can. But even better than that, and I'll just, anybody that's messing around with this stuff, I just want to put this out there sort of as like, you know, like a tip or news. It's not really news, but because it's been around, it's not like
It's
they
a
just
use
added
case
it.
tip. Use
Yeah,
case tip.
yeah. Work with Gemini to help you, not just with the style. Now, when you do in Suno, as I'm learning more and more about this with Suno, you have a style, like do a song in this style, very basic prompting, right? And it's like, what kind of voice do you want and stuff. But the key is not necessarily in that style. In the lyrics, there's parentheses and brackets. Brackets is like verse 1, verse 2, pre-chorus, right? Chorus, those kind of things. You know, like solo, whatever. But then in parentheses, you can add in additional style. And what that'll do is give you a dynamic range of, you have your sort of voice, your persona, if you will. But if you want it to go push hard, like if you want that voice to push hard through the vocal cords and strain on a particular chorus to make that chorus sound like, if you're repeating the chorus, you want it to sound different than the last one, or you want to break out the sounds and go quieter, like you'll often hear with a song. Like you hear some really famous songs that do the chorus 4 times, but they do it slightly different, right? One's a little bit louder, one's without any, you know, it's just a silent thing, or they speak it or whatever. So just wanted to throw that out there, that has been a real game changer for me, but you don't have to figure that out yourself. You can literally use Gemini to help. You just get really descriptive with what you're doing. Tell Gemini to go research both on Reddit and in Suno's documentation about what Suno wants. That's key. So say, go Gemini, go find out, go look at Reddit, go look at Suno. What does Suno want? Then come back to me with it formulated in the right way. So it'll give you both the style of the song as it will. Well, you could work the lyrics or whatever, but it is also going to give you the key parts above the choruses and verses. And what that allowed me to do, and I'll put it in the community or somewhere where other people who care to listen can listen. I'm not here to push music, but what was cool about it was I produced what I feel like was a really fun, good, just upbeat, fun song. And then I was able to produce a remix of it. And that to me, as just a sort of an audiophile and somebody who just loves music and everything about it, that was beyond fun to me. And I've listened to it way too many times. And so for those who are, those who like to dabble in that kind of stuff, and I know we have a few in our listening group that like to do that. So there you go. If you're using Suno, use Gemini Pro as the 1-2 punch, and I think you're going to be really, really pleased with the results of it. So there you go. There's my Brian's tip of the day.
All right, people are asking, please share. Gareth is saying, once you get that down, create a gem, and then you're golden. So yeah, go check it out in the community, Brian. Please share there and other places.
Clearly, my exit strategy, Beth and Gareth. So I can't share all the things I do with Gemini. Otherwise, how am I gonna make it as an AI producer of music on Spotify? Like, I'm not gonna be able to make a feature of that. I'm a struggling artist here, you know. Yeah, I'll share whatever I can with you guys. You guys know that I'm all about the creativity and the fun, and I think it's really fun. Oh, can I add one more thing to this? Their sort of spin a wheel on Suno of like surprise me, you know, has like this really kind of cool graphic, and you can just click on this sort of spinning wheel. Like, here's what I found interesting. I found big band alt country. Now just think about that. Big band alt country. That's not, I wouldn't put big band and alt country together. But damn it, if it wasn't some fun songs on the way, I'm like, I think I'm a fan of big band alt country. So what did I do? I went back to Spotify and I was like, are there playlists of big band alt country that other artists? So I know people want to like, you know, poo-poo on AI and stuff like that. But as an audiophile, somebody who just loves music, I found a genre on Suno that I was like, I wouldn't have thought this is a thing. And then lo and behold, you go over to Spotify and you're like, oh, there's people making this music that are very talented and, you know, out there in the world playing their shows. And I was like, I think I'm a fan of big band alt country. It's just a fun hybrid to me. And so there you go. So even if you're like AI, whatever, it's a cool way of actually exploring new genres and not bowing down to the algorithm gods and actually expanding your tastes, as opposed to just getting limited, as we were saying the other day with the Spotify algorithm of when it does a random mix, it's not really a random mix of your songs. Not shuffle is not shuffle is the point to that. Okay. I'll step away. I'm stepping away from my music stuff. I'm very excited about it.
I have one more news item before we shift over to Claude Interviewer, which is really interesting. And that is that Replit, which is one of the main vibe coding platforms out there, has just announced a partnership with in concert with Google Cloud. Now, Google had made an investment. Google's investment arm had made an investment in Replit early on, but this isn't them trying to prop it up. Replit is a major player out there, and in use widely. Was, you know, Replit as a platform was already in use widely before it became a vibe coding platform because of its ability to deploy. Replit was a deployment platform before it became an AI with deployment platform. And now they're partnering with Google Cloud so that Google Cloud and all of their services, including Firebase and other elements that are important to an application development, so that those will all be more accessible, more readily accessible to teams in enterprise that are using Replit to do vibe coding. And what's happening in enterprise with vibe coding is that it goes beyond the core engineers using, doing application development, so that now product teams like a product manager can build using Replit and then deploy it internally. And now in the partnership with Google Cloud, all of that will happen fairly seamlessly, and they can do, Firebase integration, I'm sure, will be a key part of that, when you choose to use Replit in concert with Google Cloud. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, and Replit is definitely a major player out there in vibe coding, though we don't speak about it as often, because at our level, not enterprise software engineers, but at our level, playing with vibe coding platforms, we lean towards the simpler and easier to use platforms like Lovable and Bolt and so on. But Replit's a major player out there.
You mentioned Google Cloud, and that just reminded me, you brought this up yesterday, Andy, about Google Workspace Studio.
Yeah.
And I'm still looking to see if I have access to that through Scaled. It seems like it's rolling out. They also kind of tell you have it, but then I don't really see it. I don't know. Either they're making it hard for me to find, or I'm just literally, I don't have it yet through Scaled. But man, am I excited about that. You were talking about like what got my ear was like, oh, gems, and you can connect them and you can call in gems from emails. I tell you what they're sort of building inside of just Gmail alone is pretty powerful. I'll tell you one of the easiest things that they use as one of the examples, but it's like sometimes you don't need complex answers with AI. Simply organizing the attachments that come through my work Gmail all the time, like daily through Scaled, and organizing them in the right place inside my drive for work. I'm like, yes, please. Can I have that? That would be amazing. Because that's why I switched over from Zoom to Google meetings, and I'm the only one at Scale that I keep doing it. I'm like, they're gonna have to pry this out of my cold dead hands. I'm not going back to Zoom. So of course I'm on Zoom calls all the time. I'm on Zoom calls all the time, but Google Workspace just simply puts my recordings and transcripts directly in my Google Drive where I need it, and I can share it instantly back with the clients or my coworkers or whatever. And I'm, look, it's an efficiency thing. So we're talking about Google having this ecosystem, and here we are. And Andy, you brought this up, and I definitely want to dive into this when I get access, or figure out how I get access. I'm not sure. But man, does this look like fun, because we know the gems have gotten crazy more powerful. I've been talking about that to death. Well, now you layer that into being able to set up 2 or 3 gems that run in a workflow like an agent, or just being able to call those gems directly from an email. So so I work with salespeople all the time, and we're always talking about like, well, pull in transcript notes, pull in this, whatever. Well, now it's opening up the possibility for me creating gems for as a consultant for my clients and saying, oh, hey, here, you know how we always talked about how to formulate your email back to make it more personalized? Well, now here, look, I created this gem. And now when you're in your email and responding to that person, just call the gem into the email and it'll automatically transcribe it the way you want directly in your email.
So this strikes me as potentially the a simpler way into the Google app script, right? You could write those things and you could ask any of the AIs to generate the script for you and then like add the script to do the function. And like, so smart. Yes, the people who were using the app script are a tiny drop in the bucket to the people who would be happy to do this.
I used it once. I built an invoice generator in Sheets that, using app script, and I thought that was brilliant.
Yes.
Now you're not going to need to do that because workspace.google.com is going to make it possible for you to automate things across Sheets and Gmail and Docs, etc., in really simple ways.
Yep. And they also, this is also happening in Google Home. There has been a lab that you could, Google Labs project that you could opt into that would make that easier as well. Because again, you could write a script for the scenes that were happening and how many things you wanted to coincide. But now you can do that with natural language, right? That's the lab anyway.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Well, listen, I know we want to get to sort of a quick topic. We'll spend the next couple of minutes talking about this. Thank you, by the way, to everybody in the comments. Everybody's been so responsive and, interactive is what I'm trying to say on there. So we always appreciate that. That's always like, look, you guys aren't on the screen with us, but you truly are the other co-host always in here. And we think about you guys like that. So we appreciate you being in there and always adding to the conversation. Even when it swerves away from what we're talking about. Andy and I had that happen yesterday where I looked over the comments. I was like, oh boy, they are not on the same conversation we are anymore, but that's okay. We love that too. And that makes us laugh. So, all right. The topic I wanted to bring up today, this is a news topic, but also something I felt like needed a little more, breathing room, was Anthropic's interviewer, what 1,250 professionals told us about working with AI. So first and foremost, you can find this you can see it's from Anthropic. You can go to anthropic.com /research, and you're going to obviously find this. It came out yesterday, December 4th. So there's a lot here. You can even see on my scroll bar on the side. It's quite a long blog, and it's nothing I could, we can't get into every bit and part of it. Before we do get into like some of the interesting parts about here, I do want to bring up two things. One, let me switch over to this tab. If you go over to there's a link in that blog. They made the entire data set. They have approval to do it and all that stuff, and things are anonymized, whatever, but it's all available on Hugging Face. So if you want to work with this data set and try to extract your own insights from it, they've made that available. I think that's super cool that they did that. So I wanted to bring that up. Two, you can actually be part of their future work here. They made a big part of saying this was more or less to test the idea, sort of an MVP for them, but they have big plans of where this interviewer can go. And so I thought, let me look. So I did have to sign into, I followed the link. I signed into Claude .ai. So it's claude.ai / interviewer. And I didn't even get past, this is like literally after I said, great, let's go. I said, sounds good. I said, yes, great. Let's get started. To start, what's the last thing you used AI chatbot for? And it says it'll last 10 to 15 minutes. The only thing I don't love about this is that I don't have they tell you to like use your little transcription, but I don't have one like part of Chrome that I could do. So I don't know. I would rather talk this out. So I would have to just figure out how I would add like the transcription part into Chrome so that it would just put my words in there. I was really hoping it was like literally right here and I could just turn on like voice annotation mode on it. So that was sort of a miss for me. But, anyway, if you want to be part of that. So like what are you part of? Like, what are they doing? Well, let's get back to the what they say here, and I'll give you their introduction. We're launching a new tool, Anthropic Interviewer, to help understand people's perspectives on AI. In this research post, we introduce the tool, describe a test of it on sample of professionals, and discuss our early findings. We also discuss future work in this direction that we can now explore with the development of this tool through the partnerships with creatives, scientists, and teachers. Starting today, you may notice a pop-up in Claude AI asking you to participate. Well, you can, but you could also jump through that and literally participate by clicking on the link. You can opt in that way. So lots here. And you can see they've got some how they broke it down. They've got general workforce was a sample size of 1,000. Scientists made up 125 people, and creatives made up 125 people of this original 1,250 that they did. And they say, like, look, even if it was a small sample size, we do think there's some things that we can, pull from this data that we think are happening. It says in our sample, people are optimistic about the role of AI plays in their work. Positive sentiments characterize the majority of the topics success. However, a small number of topics such as educational integration, artist displacement, and security concerns came with more pessimistic outlooks. I found this really interesting and something to discuss. People from the general workforce want to preserve tasks that define their professional identity while delegating routine work to AI. They envision a future where the routine tasks are automated and their roles shifts to overseeing AI systems. I want to pause there without just running past that. I think that is really, really telling that, again, let's just be honest. These are people who are already using Claude. So where's your sample? Like this is already this is not the general public. This is users of Claude. So you're already at some level of AI know-how, right? You've got some AI literacy if you're already in the program to begin with. But
go ahead. It's users of Claude, right? So you have some AI literacy, but you're also deeper and deeper in the AI literacy because the majority of people still have not heard of Claude.
Right? Exactly. Yes, exactly right. And I think they do a pretty good job of sort of pulling, bringing up some of those topics in here. I always find Anthropic doesn't pat their own back too much. They definitely come from hey, look, we understand there's holes here. This is, and they kind of call that out, Beth, in here as well. But I think it's a good point. I think on this second point, just really quick, I'll just come off screen too, because it just keeps us small, but I don't want to run through this report, but that one really stands out to me. And here's why. Because I think it's just human nature to want to preserve your own career, your own job, right? That's not ever going to go away. Change management is a real thing. People have really hard time with it. Many companies are doing AI wrong, and they're coming over the top, and they're explaining it the wrong way, and they're making people nervous because look, we see it, right? People are losing jobs. People are also gaining jobs. We don't see that in the news as much, but there's new careers being developed all the time. Ops, AI ops, right? Rachel Woods talks about AI ops. And I just had another person on TikTok and they were like, AI educators is where it's at, whatever. So there's these new emerging fields too, but obviously we hear more about the people that are being displaced. But I do think people are generally going to be positive about working alongside AI, but they want to do it in a way that preserves the need for them. And that's just a very core feeling, right? That's something that everybody is feeling is well, I want to feel valued in what I provide. And so there's this pull of how do I continue to provide value to my company or to whatever, while also growing in this AI space and having AI take over these menial tasks. And more than that, if I do that, will my employer like the idea that I have made things more efficient for myself, or am I inadvertently working myself out of my own job? And how you come across to your workforce and how you decide to deploy AI, I think really speaks to this, because you can force it on people, or you can explain and educate and do the literacy side, which we advocate for all the time, which is to say this is a tool towards efficiency and getting the things that you probably don't want to be doing off your plate anyway, but no, it is not a direct replacement for you and what you bring to the company. And that's not going to apply to everybody. I understand. Some people are literally going to just be eliminated in terms of what they provide. There's nothing we can do about that. So I don't know, before we move on to anything else in the story, because there's more data here, but what are your guys' thinks on that, feel on that? Because I don't know, I feel like this is a bigger conversation about this. People want the help, but they don't want to do it so much that their AI is replacing what the core of them is.
I think people identify with what they do. And when what they do, when how what they do changes so that they're doing less of it, doing it differently, that is kind of an existential, like, who am I now kind of experience. I do think that the other piece of this for me is that often work is judged by what it produces. And so if you're keeping the human part, but the actual act of production is no longer out of the human, it is that you gave, like, you had the conversation with people. It was transcribed. A successful sale was done. And that took you 15, 20 minutes. And then AI spit something out in 5 that has all of this great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That couldn't happen without the human conversation, right? Karl says that all the time. Right? There is a difference in doing it person to person. There is a difference doing it in the room. There's a difference doing it, having the conversations rather than, hey, fill out this report and we'll give you your AI readiness, or fill out this form, we'll give you an AI readiness score. I do think that we need to have a larger conversation about the value of the gestation, the human, like, warming the conversation. And ironically, Brian, I think sales has a better handle on that than most other jobs or industry functions, right? Because sales actually understands there's a whole process of warming it up to get the productive thing. I'm not sure that other functions have that. Andy, what do you think?
Well, I think that the concerns about job displacement are well founded, because it's going to happen. It is happening in many ways. At the very same time, I think there's an ongoing and important role for humans in that mix, which has to do with managing, right? So general management principles are skills that, wow, I'm getting a look, can you see this? I must be saying something very important.
Yes.
Look at that. Wow.
I'm about to write in the chat that Andy is testing a new solar powered Andy. This is our solar powered Andy.
I always say the sun comes up as Andy is pontificating and bringing his best thoughts. And now the sun is literally shining on you, Andy, as you're sharing your thoughts here.
But anyway, I believe, because I have this experience in my own work with AI on a daily basis, is that I'm the orchestrator, I'm the manager. I am manipulating and correcting and redirecting, and all of those executive function skills are going to be important. And I don't know how you train those into somebody except through experience. And the best way to, become the orchestrator / manipulator of AI is to do it with AI, right? So start being a manager of AI, and don't worry about that AI suddenly leaping out of the screen and taking your seat. You need to be interacting with it. And I think there is, for many years to come, there is an honorable role for humans, managing the processes that are now very nicely accelerated and simplified with AI, and require constant supervision at this point. There are a couple of different things that I'm working on right now that I'm spending many hours. My workload hasn't decreased. I'm spending many hours trying to coax, the AI into doing something well or better than that, and I'm not waiting for it to do that. I'm having to jump into the actual documents, spreadsheets in this case, to actually work those spreadsheets and then give them back to the AI and say, now compare these two. Here's what you gave me, and here's what I'm giving you back. Yeah. And evaluate that. Now that's me working companion-like with an AI that's quite capable, but not experienced enough to know how to pre-check its work and verify and validate everything that's required in order to do a complete sort of financial simulation of something, which is a key, component of, what we do in business.
And that comes up a lot in this. By the way, like I said, it's a long blog. So I highly recommend people going over to anthropic.com and reading it. We certainly don't have time to dig into all the parts and pieces, but exactly what you said, Andy, is what you see come up in conversations, both pessimistic and optimistic, for like the scientific community, who say, we understand it is not necessarily where it needs to be in terms of a companion towards research and being careful about hallucinations, right? And things like that. But they are optimistic about having this AI companion in research that can find novel new solutions and things like that. So you have this scientific communities going, like, sort of like collectively, we understand it's not there today, but we understand it's going there. And we're excited about this idea that AI might be able to help us unlock things that previously just weren't possible by humans. And, I get excited about that stuff too, about what the potential is. And then Beth, on the sales side, there was actually somebody with, they have a bunch of in here from the general workforce creative and the scientists, right? And they have different snippets of what people said. Again, this is all done with permission, so they're not speaking out of turn here. And it just says salesperson. I hear from colleagues that they can tell when email correspondence is AI generated, and they have a slightly negative regard for the sender. They feel slighted that the sender is, quote, too lazy to send them a personal note and push it onto AI or to do it. And I think this is going to be a big conversation point beyond the scope of today's show, where just like I've been saying that, your in-person, my wife and I are going to a comedy show tonight. Somebody I literally found on TikTok that made me laugh. And I found out he was coming to Tampa to a local comedy club. I have not gone to a comedy show in forever. That is uniquely AI. I mean, like, I found him through the algorithm, but I'm literally spending money to go see this guy tonight because he cracked me up, and I was like, yeah, I want to go see him. So, like, there's a good example of like that human experience of creativity, or in-person carvings or ice sculptures or in-person paintings. I think are all going to have higher value, and I've talked about that. From the business side and the sales side, this is a amazing time. Yes, use AI to be more efficient. Yes, use AI to help you craft your emails and stuff, but also use AI to help you make a quick video script, and then get on the damn camera or be Karl and walk in the door and be the person. You have such an opportunity now to get beyond your competitors by simply being in the room or showing that you did care, and that their time was valuable and you were willing to make a video. So yeah, use AI to make all the processing up to that point easy, but then turn on your camera, make a video art, and send it to the prospect or the, whatever, because maybe they'll watch it, maybe they won't. But when they watch it, they're going to go, that's not AI. That's Brian taking the extra 30 seconds to speak to me. And they're not going to care that I used AI to get educated. They're going to be impressed. But that is what gets you around it feels AI, it feels lazy or whatever. Well, don't use it for that part. Have the human connection. Be great at what you're great at. Use AI to get you faster to the human connection. Don't eliminate the human connection. And Karl, who's not here, but he's a great example of that working in his community where he is in Canada, in Calgary, because they are walking indoors, they're having meetings, they're sitting around tables, and they're discussing AI. And 0 to 60 is doing well because of that. They're not trying to do it all through remote or virtual or whatever. So anyway,
yeah. I have another point that I want to make about this Anthropic interviewer, which is about the platform that they created in order to do this study of AI. This is a new product, right?
Yes. So, and I want it, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it's going to come out. Right now, you can participate as an interviewee on that platform. But this is a new product, and it should have been foretold. We should have expected it, because deep research, which is it's an element of almost every major frontier model now. Every one of them will do deep research for you. They apply a reasoning thinking model, and it goes out there and hoovers up as many resources as it can, and then synthesizes that into the report along with citations of all the research that it's done. But that's just documentary research. research often requires that there be interactions with actual humans in a sample population in order to collect information.
Mm-hmm.
And what we see in this illustration, which is Anthropic interviewer interviewing 1,250, serious players in the world of AI, what we see is the emergence of a new kind of assistant companion to scientific and medical, et cetera, research, because now you can use an Anthropic tool that's being built and has already demonstrated its usefulness. You can use that in your research facility. So I think it's a very important thing to note that what we're talking about is the results, but in fact, it's a tool that we've never seen before. I don't think, maybe some other company has built a research survey tool that uses AI, but this is built into an AI platform, another clickable alternative like deep research, where I want to do an interview, and you can see how that might extend to, okay, you can sign up to be a respondent to any kind of interview in your areas of expertise, and you can kind of get certified as a respondent in that way. And now you have an outreach program inside Anthropic that could, survey a population of pre-vetted respondents for academic research, for scientific research, etc.
Yeah, I think so. These things do exist. From what I've seen, they're more marketed as smart forms. So typeless by type form, right? You pay $60 a month and you get 250 conversations. And that for me sort of identifies the problem with this, because this isn't an innovation at the level of the interview, right? Like you're missing the design and the analysis.
Right.
If that's what you're doing.
And that's what the advanced LLMs will be so good at.
Right.
They'll design the research for you. They'll mount the interview process to do this collection of data, and they'll do the analysis with deep statistical accuracy and understanding.
And in my opinion, I'm not associated with them in any way, but that price, the 250 for $60 is too high for that to be a real research project, because you need way more than 250 respondents. And maybe real research budgets would cover that, but
yeah. Anyway, it's I like I said, we'll wrap it up here and we'll say highly recommend going to check it out. I found it to be a great read. I think this is one of those examples where do as you do, but I think just literally sitting down and reading through it is worth the 5 or 10 minutes it takes to go through it versus trying to get summaries, because I think you're gonna miss some of the things and some of the nuances and stuff. But I find it very interesting, and I hope they do more. It sounds like they're going to do way more of this in much larger groups, which will be really, really cool, because I think it's super telling, and it's fun to kind of get a pulse on where people are as they think about AI. We always talk about we're in the bubble. We know that, not the AI bubble, but in the bubble in the sense of like, we talk about it all the time. We're up on the news. We understand we're not the typical average person who AI is through the news, but they're not paying attention to like we do, or the folks in our community. So anyway, much more to come on that. And for that, we'll wrap it up this week. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us all week long, and all the other shows. This is episode 610. We will be back all next week as well for brand new shows, and we'll have a lot of fun. So come back. I told you at the beginning about all the stuff we have, but the Conundrum episode comes out tomorrow. You can join our community by going to the dailyAIShowCommunity.com, and you can sign up for the newsletter by going to our website, The Daily AI Show. That goes out on Sunday mornings. That's it from our side. Beth, I have a go live. I don't have an end. Do you have an end?
I have an end stream. What
there
the
you
heck?
go.
All right.
All right, everybody. We'll see you.
Thanks. Bye. So now I can't hear, which is interesting.
Well, mine still says finishing upload. So does it say out on your guys' side?
Upload progress 94, live recording 54. Are we still live? Let's
I
see.
don't know. Now it still says finishing upload on my side. Andy, you're on mute. We can't hear
you. Are we still showing up, chat team? Oh yeah, Greg says after show.
Definitely after show. I'm watching it. Let's try end stream again. This is very sweet, Streamlabs. Thank you so much.
That's a send off that we weren't expecting.
It's just throwing us the after show party. Thank you. We're still
Streamlabs. Not gonna miss you.
We're still gonna